synchronicity versus coincidence. One of the counter arguments against synchronicity and order in the universe, or to my example that is it synchronicity or is it just coincidence that, for example, my mouth is moving in a seemingly orderly manner, producing sounds that seem to make sense? Is it just coincidence or is it synchronicity that there happens to be a camera in front of my face and it happens to be recording, and my hand is holding this selfie stick, and the parts seem to be moving together in such a way that the camera happens to be on recording and I just happen to be speaking at the same time? Is it just a coincidence that all these things are happening at the same time and recording is taking place? Or is it synchronized manifestation, something orderly, something that's not just an accident of nature? So a counter argument that someone could make would be, oh, well, this is just silly talk. Order happens when intelligence is involved in the formula, in the process. So, for example, clearly this is not just a coincidence that there's a camera in front of me. It's because there's an intelligence, there's a being with an intelligence in it that is, had thought of the process and a plan, premeditated action to hold the camera and make this video. So there's intelligence behind these processes, and when there's an intelligence, we could give credibility to the idea of synchronicity. Indeed, these things aren't random, they're not just coincidental, they're synchronized, because we accept the idea that there's a order behind it, there's a system behind it. But in the case when we don't see an intelligence behind different things happening at the same time or in an orderly manner, orderly fashion, a lot of people might tend to dismiss it and say that it is not really synchronicity at play, it's a coincidence at play, because they don't recognize there being an order, they don't recognize there being intelligence and intention behind it. That's the key. And my response to that would be, I think the flaw in that argument is the assumption that this intelligent, the beings are somehow separate from the universe, and that there are forces that are happening due to order, and there are forces that are happening due to disorder. So as if there's like this duality at play, when if there's intelligence, then we say it's synchronized. If there's no intelligence, or we don't see it or we don't recognize it, then we will say it's coincidence. But we have to keep in mind that this body that we have is really completely the product of this environment, this nature. It's not some sort of like uniquely separate phenomena from everything else. This body, you know, it's a flow of energy, flow of vibration that's completely engulfed and within this environment. It's everything is influencing everything else. There's like this feedback loop happening. It's very difficult to say that this is where I start, this is where I end, in an ultimate, you know, more fundamental sense. So basically, this perception that, you know, there's a being that's holding this camera is not really a fundamental reality. It's an apparent reality. It's just nature doing its thing. It's just things happening in an orderly, systematic way that's happening. And this intention is also not some sort of separate thing outside of the universe. This intention arose from this world, from this universe. It's not independent. It's a product of it, and it is the world, it is the universe. So intention itself must be either synchronistic in nature or coincidental in nature. I mean, we can also think of intentions as an emergent, some people will talk about emergent properties of systems. That's when you have enough complexity, orders of greater and greater systems layered on top of each other, then you have an emergent property of a system. So we could say that because this emergent system we call a being with an emergent intelligence, it has emergent intentions, and so emergent systems and emergent perceptions. But if all these things are emergent, then are they coincidental or are they synchronistic? Did all of these things emerge by accident, and now through accident we have purpose? Or is it we have purpose as a fundamental characteristic of the world, that things don't happen by accident, intentions are not accidents? It's there's a never-ending flow of cause and effect which is happening. We can't see the beginning of it, we can't see the end of it, and it's not really, it's not totally true either way, synchronistic or coincidental manifestation. So this becomes relevant when people get attached to certain views and start debating with each other, hating one another. One says it's all synchronized, it's all orderly. The other says it's all disorderly, it's all random, it's just coincidence. Both fail to see that there's something else going on. There's some degree of truth to both versions, both views. Both can be right. And that's where and why attachment to views becomes so harmful. It becomes our hindrance, it makes us unable to grow. We basically, because of our own maybe pride, intellectual pride, we block ourselves from the ability to hear other perspectives, other views, and to connect, to understand the perceptions, perspectives of other people. And causes us suffering. Both all the parties involved that cannot see where the other is coming from, developing hatred, are all victims of their own limited virtue, limited openness of mind, flexibility of mind. So those are my thoughts for now about synchronicity and coincidence, and the role that intelligence and beings and plays in all of this. Let me know what you think, what your views are. I'd love to continue this conversation. We can all learn from each other. Have a wonderful Saturday, September the 7th, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Till next time, goodbye guys.